Is this a better? I got to cover up all of my crap that's hanging out.
I've come to peace with the crap that we have here.
For now,
I display it whenever I get the chance. Actually,
yeah, my computer is there. We go. I'm like off to one side, but that's okay.
Welcome to the live stream, Subman, and any fools who watch this later.
Yeah,
So now,
both of you.
You're in Florida, right?
I am in Florida. Yes.
So now, how many people have survived the apocalypse after Trump? Is there anyone besides yourself, or?
Yeah, we're actually Florida was we went for Trump, so I haven't seen there were a few minor protests in some of the like in Tampa and in Miami, but nothing on the scale of that's going on on the West Coast, Portland and LA and that sort of scale. We just had some rather peaceful protests out here. So yeah, Florida's more laid back generally though than some of the other parts of the country.
Well, they're used to fucking up elections, so
I
don't think they want to draw any more attention.
I understand that that's going to be the new state motto. Elections come here to die.
Hey, it would be good, I was surprised that Florida was supposed to be so close that it was too close to call. So, because I was going to vote for Gary Johnson, and I said, well, if Florida's votes actually matter, a vote for Gary Johnson is basically throwing it away. So I'm going to have to pick one of the two evils and pick the lesser of the two. So, as far as personally voting, so I had to do that. As distasteful as it was.
Wasn't that fun? Isn't that the favorite thing in the world?
Yes, yeah, it is.
So leaves the voting booth.
Yeah, I filled in the everything else. I voted for legal marijuana, and I voted for all the other offices and things that were on the ballot, and I left the president for last. And I was like, I guess I'm going to have to do this. It was not fun. They offered me the little "Hey, I voted" sticker when I left, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really proud of what I had to do today. I don't want to wear that sticker.
See, the worst part is that depending on the candidates, you could go either way. You don't have to share who you voted for, but I'm going to assume.
Yeah, there you go. It works for both of them, doesn't it?
It does work for both of them.
They're really both not great candidates, to say the least. The only thing I'm moderately happy about going forward is the Second Amendment stance that Mr. Trump has up on his website and has been going along for the whole time. So, like you may know Justicar. Like Justicar, I'm a big Second Amendment proponent.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've tried getting him on. Our show. I can't. For some reason, he didn't bite.
No.
No.
He's grown quite a bit since I first started following him. He was like in the 2,000 to 3,000 followers. Subscribers on YouTube when I first ran into him a couple of years back. It was during the Atheism Plus phase. Yeah. You remember that? Yeah, he was all over that.
Who can forget? I'd love to wash it from my mind.
Yeah.
There's not enough bleach.
Yeah, he was all over that. But yeah, so and now he's like up to 20-something thousand, I think. So he's just growing, which is good because he's entertaining.
Dragon Beard and I have a long-term plan for YouTube and our podcast, and that is we're taking the HPV approach. We're kind of like the genital warts. We're going to lay low for a while and then spring on everyone when they least expect it.
Yeah, that's kind of what you got to do nowadays, I guess. Whoa.
I know.
I backed all of my YouTube videos off. I don't know if you know. I took most of them down, or made them private. excuse the soda here. I'm going to open a soda. I took most of them down because I was looking for work, and I knew that there were people out there that knew about my YouTube channel, and I was kind of thinking maybe they were spreading, pointing to it as like, look, see this guy, he's one of those, he's one of those deplorables.
Yeah.
So I took almost everything down, and so I don't really do many videos anymore. I think this is the first time I've been back on YouTube in about 6 months.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I watch a lot.
Yeah, me too. This is, I think, the first video in a long time where I've actually just let my face out there. I don't care anymore. Honestly, I don't. Like that when I was in school, I tried to keep it low key because a lot of the things we talk about on this show were a little bit counter to what my education was centered around. So I decided to try and keep it under the radar. But I don't care anymore. The shit that's going on now with the left and the protests that are happening, the violent riots that are happening, and the hate speech codes, and
I'm just getting I'm just like the dragon. When you stir me, I am mad. When people won't stop calling everyone racist. It's so
fuck.
Millions and millions of you voted differently than me, so you're clearly all racists.
and they did apparently. Nobody learned anything from the fact that Trump won. So because they're just doubling down on well, he's just a racist, white supremacy. People can vote for their own economic and political self-interest from time to time. They do that. It's it's been known to happen.
Right. The people that I've been taking the biggest issue with over the last little while, like I get called racist anymore on Twitter pretty regularly now. So I know I'm doing something right. But last night I had a brief exchange with an old guest on our show. I didn't actually get to interview him. I wasn't there for that one, but
he got to talk to the illustrious Dragonbeard.
Right. But Michael Sherlock decided to try and quote one of my tweets and call me out for racism and saying that I was doing it to be cool. Yeah. And I was just like, are you fucking serious?
Talking. I won't pull it up.
And it followed a series of tweets where we were talking about how the left doesn't seem to learn its lesson and how they just keep calling people racist, you're racist, you're racist. And then he bit like a fucking fish. He took the bait. So yeah, okay. Are you screen sharing this yet?
Not yet. I'll do it. So you can look at this here. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Okay,
so he tried to go after me for it, and I wasn't biting back at him. I'm like, what the fuck ever, man. This is stupid.
All right, so alrighty, what just happened?
I don't know. It says you're sharing.
I've got a screenshot of Michael Sherlock tweet.
Yeah. Yes, this is racist, but apparently unapologetic. And then you close the window, you dick.
Yes. Okay. So now, this is the thing: is that now maybe he didn't intend it this way, but when he quotes it like this, it makes it more likely that his followers are going to see the tweet, right?
Right.
And it's presented just with the picture, and being presented as unapologetic racism.
Yeah,
so that's an accusation. I don't really care how he tries. Later on, he says he's just asking questions.
What did you tweet? You didn't. Your tweet's not there.
Right there.
Oh. Just the picture. Oh, yeah. With the. Okay. I got it.
Okay, so now here's what he didn't do. He did not scroll back. This was the one that I put before it. Right?
It says, look, the left is just like this GIF, only more repetitive. And then go back up because it's all the way to the top.
So, yeah, and this is talking of, So the entire string starts with and consistently is about mocking the left, about being paranoid about racism, like constantly calling everyone racist.
Right.
But he assumed by what he saw of that one picture, the worst, and it started this whole thing.
Right. So now go back to the Sherlock.
Right.
So yeah, then I'm like, Yeah, missed my meaning, I suppose.
Can you see these animations on the share screen?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and then another guy came in, is one of his followers. Explain the deeper meaning behind the watermelon coming out of the kid's mouth, as if it's not a joke, right? Mocking their faux fear of racism, right?
No, not to mention that if you come to Twitter looking for deeper meaning, you are going to be left sorely disappointed.
Oh God.
So I put up Robert Downey Jr., one of the most successful actors in the world, who not only is playing a black man here, but he's using the word retard, right? But they still love this guy.
Oh yeah.
This is the joke. Regressive left is taking humor as hate, and then my hashtag mock the left. It's the first time I had used this hashtag. I developed it myself. It was on the spot, and immediately they took the bait.
Yeah, and then he plays dumb. I'm sorry, but fucking Sherlock was playing dumb here. You know, he's like, "Oh, I missed the point. Perhaps I missed the point."
Oh yeah. I've never seen anybody be racist in order to be edgy. Fresh new trend. So I put this. Yeah, racial humor just started.
Yeah.
Show. Yeah. These people need to grow up, man. And the level of self-righteousness is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, and he had to be playing dumb. He was playing dumb because what he didn't do is he didn't go back and he didn't look at the rest of the series of tweets to see what it was we were talking about. And then I think once we got into him with it, he must have gone back and looked. So then he just played stupid to save face. So whatever, you want a white knight for your 14,000 followers, go nuts. I don't care. But just because you're a guest on this show previously doesn't mean that I owe you any loyalty. You know, there's a reason why we put it right in the title of our show. Get ready to root for the bad guys. You know, I have a lot of followers. I have a lot of followers on Twitter who are deplorables. And, you know, a lot of them, when you read their profiles, they say they believe in Jesus Christ and the Lord and the Bible, and that's fine. I don't care. You want to follow me? That's fine. But one of these days, I'm going to have a beef with the Bible or creationists or whatever. And, you know, a lot of them are going to look to the door, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to speak about the things that I consider important.
Freedom of speech. I don't understand when this became a debatable topic in our society. Like, oh, well, freedom of speech, it's not the most important thing. Yeah, it is.
Yep.
And that's why, in fact, in your country, there's a Second Amendment, is in case people decide the First Amendment can go. The Second Amendment there is to say, fucking no, it's not.
Right.
And well, I look. They've been the Constitution. I think Justicar explained this. He was like, the Constitution is not a la carte. You can't say, "Oh, I like this part and I like this part, but I don't like that part." It's a whole package. You got the whole package all at once, right?
Right.
And so I look at the Second Amendment as kind of like the canary in the mine. You know, it seems to be the least popular or the most attacked right that's enumerated in the Bill of Rights. So if that starts eroding, then you can use those same measures that you use to erode that right to erode other rights that people do like the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment, and etc.
Right.
Wow, they've already got 5 amendments.
We've got something like 20 something. I don't know what's
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give up on trying to memorize all those.
I don't memorize all of them. The first 10 we had to memorize in school, at least back when they taught civics in school. That's another thing. Is people like, the Electoral College doesn't work because it didn't. You know, it's been working for 200, almost 200 years. You know?
Yeah, it's worse. It's worse. Is that it doesn't work now because we lost.
Yeah. If Hillary had won, they wouldn't have had a problem with the Electoral College, right?
No.
So
if Trump had won the popular vote and Hillary had won the Electoral College, everyone would be like, "Oh, you're not accepting the results of the election? Why don't you cry about it?" Fuck off.
Exactly.
You know, and not to mention, like, you know, a bunch of people on the left were like, "Oh, if it was Trump that had lost, you know, it would be his followers out in the streets burning the flags and protesting." Have you seen these people? I don't agree with every view that they have, but the last thing they're going to do is burn the American flag. They're going to wear it.
I would love to have seen a Trump supporter hanging up a light post, taking a shit on a Hillary poster, and then smearing it with her hand, right? And thinking that like this is going to happen from a Trump supporter. They are not that equivalent. There are differences.
Yeah,
right. And you know, I can't get that image out of my mind now.
Thanks a lot, Dragon.
You're welcome.
But not to mention, you know, like just to be serious, most of Trump supporters lived in rural America.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to be, you know, smashing city posts and lighting fires in trash bins. You know, at best, they're going to light cornfields on fires and tip some cows. So not much different than any other Friday night.
Tip their own cows. They go tip somebody else's cows. Yeah.
What do you think it's meant by? Clearly, he's not done this before.
No, I've never done that before.
I like how Trump responded to this on Twitter about the Electoral College. Did you hear what his response was?
Ooh.
He goes, "Well, I still could have won if we did it strictly by popular vote. I would have spent all of my time in New York City and in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And down and in. I would have won those two spots, and then you would have lost."
Yeah.
There's a votefraud.org that I don't know how reliable they are, so I don't want to quote them as a reliable source, but they seem to indicate that there was signs of 3 million illegal votes, and that if you take a reasonable look at that, most people who would be voting illegally would be illegal immigrants trying to vote for the candidate who was going to offer them amnesty. So the likelihood is that Hillary had a padding of about 3 million votes that were not worthy of it. And some people have said that that's upwards of 7 million or 8 million.
Well, I don't know what the particulars, but there's certainly a lot of evidence that they were screwing with the proper way the elections are supposed to run.
And not just that, but how about the rigging of the primary?
Yeah.
You know, torpedoing the DNC, torpedoing Sanders at every opportunity, and basically all of the machinery from the media to the DNC, all of that machinery that you know, to mobilize people and stuff was backing Hillary, when the DNC is supposed to be sitting there saying, "Okay, America, choose your candidate," right? We're just going to present the candidates for you, right? No.
Right.
And you know, I think that turned a lot of people off. Those WikiLeaks, with I think that turned a lot of the Bernie supporters off. Now, Bernie Sanders and Trump are similar in some ways, like on trade. They're similar on not on the immigration issue, but obviously, but they're similar on trade and the economic policy that they wanted to, and to get the money out of government, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm wondering if some of those Bernie supporters didn't just go out and say, you know what, Hillary fucked us. And,
Oh yeah.
and at least Trump has similar issues on, you know, trade issues and keeping the money out of government, term limits, that kind of thing. So let's vote for him, you know. And the Democratic Party, who did they blame? They blamed third-party voters. They blamed and they
White women, white men,
and white women.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've now officially turned on white women. They're also officially trashed now.
This is good. This is golden, because, you know, I love privilege peddlers. You know, nobody's buying it anymore. You know, the only people who are buying it are people who are going into fucking lesbian dance theory and gender studies. You know, like nobody's fucking buying it.
Lesbian dance theory. That sounds interesting.
Lesbian feminist dance theory. I'm sorry, feminist. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of guys could. But, you know, it's just, you know, I look at people like Michael Sherlock, who definitely believes in.
By the way, he's not the most extreme we run into.
No.
He was being quite tame compared to.
No, and he honestly believes there's evidence for privilege, even though, or white privilege specifically. And there are other people who peddle this bullshit. But
Richard Dawkins, man, wrote this thing. Did you see what he wrote?
No.
He was writing to New Zealand about the Trump supporters, wholly condescending. It was brutal.
Right. And what I'm trying to get to is this term that I believe I've come up with it. I might be the first to come up with it, but I call it the intellectual intimidation. And this is kind of where I'm trying to roughly define it as people who are of the ivory tower, academia, especially public figures who are highly educated. There's nothing wrong with educated people. We need them. They advance our culture in different ways.
Yeah.
But when they take their opinions or their expertise and then they try to apply it to everything else that they encounter, what I find is
Dunning-Kruger effect.
I don't know if the Dunning-Kruger effect really works, but maybe it does. But in either case, they attempt to intimidate dissenting opinions by force of intellect. So they know they're smarter than you. I know I'm not as smart as Richard Dawkins, or at least I'm not as educated as Richard Dawkins. So if he were to fire back at me, it would take me a little bit of a longer time to formulate an opinion or a counter. And I think they rely on that most people will just go, oh, somebody smarter. Okay, I'm sorry. And then they just quiet down. And it is intellectual intimidation. And
there's also popularity.
Yeah, popularity, there's that's part of it, but some people just don't have the same depth of understanding about the topics that they're good at. And then they just go, oh, this guy or this girl or this person is really, really smart about this. So they must be really smart about everything.
The amazing thing to me is that you'll see these guys like Thunderfoot. I'll include in the same camp, though his popularity is in a different sort of way.
Right.
He's a scientist. He's not a stupid guy.
No.
But his own followers, Dawkins, same thing, his followers, Sam Harris, same thing, his followers, they will consistently start trying to tell them in their comment section, dude, this is retarded. See, this is what you're saying here is stupid. And these are the reasons why. And they'll just be snide or ignore them completely and keep going. It's like, these are your own people who support you.
Right.
Why would they be overwhelmingly telling you you're stepping on landmines here?
Well, okay, so this is the thing with Thunderfoot, and maybe Subman, I don't know how well you know him, but I saw his most recent video.
Met. We've never showered together.
Sure.
My opinion on this, I was going to do a video about it, but honestly, I haven't done a lot of videos on my own channel because my computer is way too old and it sucks. So I have to do most of my recording here, and that's difficult when I have a family. But if Thunderfoot were to listen to this, I would say that he was one of a handful of individuals, 8 years ago or 7 years ago when I started watching his videos, that really inspired me to be a critical thinker and really brought me out of the haze of my early 20s or late 20s, early 30s, where I just kind of accepted what I saw on television and I accepted things that I read in headlines. And then I actually started to kind of examine things on a deeper level.
Right.
Now, I'm not a scientist, and I'm okay with not being a scientist. I understand things on a different level than he does, and he understands things on a different level than I do. But he gets on there and he just assumes that people voted for Trump because of either his rhetoric,
they're uneducated,
or because they're stupid.
They're uneducated.
And he quite, and you know what? I don't have a problem with this principle. He says that my only dog in this fight is science, and we have an anti-vaxxer, anti-science president. Okay, that's fair, but you're attributing your dislike of the candidate and his lack of scientific understanding to everyone who voted for him.
Not only that, they're focusing on just the things that their own pet concerns about the candidate. There's more going on here. And to be frank, some of these guys like Thunderfoot and Dawkins, you don't even fucking live there. I would love to see them walk up.
We don't either.
I'd love to. But I'm there all the time, right? And when I drive to the countryside, I see a lot of people who don't live in houses like on sitcoms, right? Fucking pieces boarded up onto the wall to keep the wind from going through a busted window.
Right. And I think that's the problem is that, when someone like Dawkins or Harris or Thunderfoot or anyone who falls into the same camp as they do, and they're concerned about science or intellectualism, education, that's well and good. And I support these things too. I think they're very important for the advancement of our species. But
that's why it's so disappointing.
I get it when somebody votes for the guy who says, hey, we're going to give you a job so you can feed your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I was going to get to there is I'd love to see Richard Dawkins walk up to some poor family out in the country, like walk up their driveway in his nice suit, or better drive up in his nice car, which I'm sure he has, get out in his nice suit, walk up to the family, maybe the father's lost his job, the mom's inside trying to get some good food together for her family with what little bits they have, and go, actually, let me tell you, you're uneducated. You are destroying this country with how you're voting. Like,
Fuck off.
kids, get that board over there.
You will build a board with a nail in it so large you will destroy the world.
Wait, let me lecture you on your religion. Wait, put down that soup spoon.
Yeah, a lot of people. Everybody seemed to have taken this election was kind of like a big mirror, because and Trump was kind of like a big mirror. Everybody saw what maybe not a mirror. It's kind of like I don't know, like a microscope. Everybody saw the portion of what he was doing that they were most interested in. The social justice warriors saw racism everywhere and sexism. Like you say, Dawkins and Thunderfoot, they saw he's anti-science, and none of them seem to have looked at what he actually was saying about, hey, I'm gonna help you guys out. I'm gonna make America great again, which was and what he was talking about was in terms of economically. I'm gonna make America, a power again, an economic power again. I'm gonna put the jobs back. We're gonna put you guys to work. Hell, we're gonna build a wall.
Yeah, you're gonna need people to build that.
Somebody's gonna have to build that wall, right?
Right. Mexicans.
Hey, actually, this is one case where they should hire the Chinese because they have past experience.
Right. They have lots of experience building walls. But you're right. You're absolutely right. And like I would say, I have huge respect for Thunderfoot. I have huge respect for a lot of YouTubers who kind of enlightened me and others like me to ideas that we weren't generally exposed to on regular media. And so I don't disrespect Thunderfoot by saying that he's dead wrong on this. There's going to be people in charge of education that Trump is going to put in there. Now, if Trump starts pushing an agenda where creationism will be taught in schools nationally, I'll turn on him like that. Because I don't have any loyalty to him.
This is the balancing that everyone has to do.
Right.
Like I know I finally just told people outright that I was supporting the election of Trump. I'm Canadian, so right away the first thing they do is they go, "Oh, you support Trump? You're a bigot." I'm like, okay, so these are people who are normally all about detail, like skeptics, right? I'm like, okay, so what I just said. I said I was supporting the election of Trump. Did not say that he was my ideal candidate. And obviously, I am a Canadian. I cannot vote. I mean, if I was voting for Hillary, I guess I could still vote.
Right.
But
all are welcome.
All right. Come to the polls. We need your votes.
Yeah, it got really, it just this election just got so wacky as far as people digging in, and it's like I know you guys don't want the Republicans to win. My friends that are lefties, and I understand why. You don't want to have anything happen to abortion rights. You don't want things to be taught in school about creationism.
Yeah,
the environment's important. Yes, but you know what you haven't been doing for the last 8 years? You have not been taking a public stand in a meaningful way against the crazy fucks on the left. And this is doing a lot of crazy damage. Like the
Common Core alone. Like, fuck, man. This is stupefying another generation of people. Common Core
was Common Core from the Democrats or Republicans involved?
I'm not 100% certain on that, so maybe I'll have to eat my words. But in either case, it was something that happened during Obama's tenure as president.
Well, not only that. Okay, so let's look at the signs. Obama was someone that I had lots of hopes for him. I had concerns about his level of experience, which, strangely enough, I was concerned about with Trump, and I didn't understand why none of the Democrats were talking about that instead of calling him Hitler.
Later.
He's Hitler. He's a fascist. Really? That's how we're going to play this?
Yeah, he's racist is not an argument.
No,
it's not a okay. And most of the time, I would go back and listen to they would say, "Oh, Trump came out and said all Mexicans are criminals," and I go back and I look at the speech that he and listen to the actual in context what he was saying, and it's like that's not what he said.
Most of the time, he said illegals.
Yes, and they would, and it was like everything he was saying was by the left was being treated with the least charity you could. And this is a man who was out there. He was not scripting his speeches. He was speaking off the cuff, extemporaneously, and you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to say things, and he was not politically correct. He was not couching his words. So he was just talk like we're talking now, off the cuff to to the people. And you make a little what could be a faux pas if you're looking at it through a jaundiced eye. Well, yeah, it's going to be perceived as in the worst light. It's going to be perceived as racist or whatever, or sexist. I don't know. I think that I thought at first that maybe the Americans. Trump did win a lot of the white vote. That is undoubtedly. He won the white vote that in previous elections went for Obama.
Right.
So those people didn't turn racist overnight or in 4 years. But
they were in the closet.
But here's the thing: for the past, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, we've gotten BuzzFeed and MTV News and Lacey Green and Jonathan McIntosh and all these people, all these outlets telling white people how shitty and racist and terrible they are. I think there may have been some bit of
revulsion.
Yeah, revolt. There was a reaction from all of that,
and it's going to continue to get worse.
Nobody on the left said, "Hey." Nobody would point out the fact that in itself is racism. Oh no, we've got special pleading, blah blah blah. It's not racism when we do it. No.
Oh, and I also love. They think this is enough. I'm not regressive. I'm not regressive. That doesn't help anyone to tell everyone you're not regressive. You need to call this shit out and tell people that you're not going to just let it pass when you see it. Because on the left, they have this attitude now, like they are just right. They're just correct. And that, of course, they have the right to do the things they're going to do. But that's not how this works. Not just politically, also in the real world. As they drive forward with more and more power, what are they doing? Well, now they want to start teaching crazy shit to kids. This stuff about, I don't know how bad it is over there, but gender pronouns right now is a crisis up here. It's a constitutional crisis. That's how far it's gotten.
It's just passed Bill C-16, the one that Jordan Peterson came out against. Has passed it's passed its third reading in the House of Commons, and now it goes to the Senate to have a bunch of readings done there. And essentially, this is an amendment to our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which will now include gender expression and gender identity under our protected classes for
human rights
and hate speech.
The criminal code.
Yeah.
So all the stuff on Tumblr that you've been hearing that people have been laughing about is now enforced by law in Canada under human rights.
Well, not yet. Code. Not yet. It still has to pass.
I'm sorry. The Senate's got to rubber stamp it.
Yeah, and that'll go pretty quick, I think. So we need to stand up against this because I'm a Canadian and I'm not going to.
Well, these are the plans they have for the states too. They are of like mind. If Hillary had gotten in, this would have been the progress towards these types of things.
All right.
Most people don't know. I didn't know this. I was shocked to find out that Obama and the Democrats, Obama had spearheaded an attempt to try and change the First Amendment. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Yeah, they wanted to make, but it's no big deal. They still believe in the First Amendment. They simply wanted to change it so that the government can put reasonable limitations on it based on what they think is free speech.
No.
In other words, there's no such thing as the First Amendment at that point.
Yeah, no, that's exactly not what it is. The freedom of speech from the government itself has to be virtually absolute. I mean, you can't go up and say, kill those people. Okay, you can't do that.
Right. Violence is the limit, right? Or when
you can say, you can say anything up to that.
Yeah.
You can say, I think that those people should be killed. You can say that.
Yep.
Without repercussion. That is not, that is not against the Constitution. You can say, I don't think Obama's a good president. Well, whatever.
Well,
you can criticize your government. You can say protecting the least popular speech. I think Hitchens had you're a big Hitchens fan, right?
Yeah.
I think Hitchens had something on this. You have to, if you can't protect what was his big speech where he's talking about if everybody agreed on things except for one person,
right?
I want to hear that one person,
right?
I want to hear that.
Well, he also has tied into that. He told a story at the end of there's a documentary made about him and a Christian that went around debating. Collision, I think it's called. And I think it's the very end of it, if I remember correctly. There's a little thing where he's sitting in a limousine, and he's telling the story about how off the record with Dawkins, when they were at a debate once on the same side, he said to him, if you could, live in a world where there was only one last person that believed in religion, only one last person, and you had the power to go and you knew you could convince them to give it up and it would be extinguished forever, would you do it? And Dawkins was like, well, of course. And he's like, you wouldn't? And Hitchens said, no. He goes, and I can't even give you perhaps a reasonable argument as to why, but I wouldn't do it. I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Right. And
Dawkins gave him this scolding look. This is a perfect example of the difference between a philosopher and a scientist, right? He wants to hear the dissenting opinion because he's not absolutely certain about his own position.
Exactly.
Me, personally, I would stand arm in arm with a Christian creationist pro-lifer if his stance on freedom of speech was equal to my own. I would disagree with him and reserve the right to disagree with him at any point, but freedom of speech, and I've said this a bunch of times in the last bunch of shows we've done, is the vehicle that has advanced our society and cultures around the world. It allows people to have disagreements. It allows for the perfecting of ideas or the elimination of bad ideas. There's so many positive benefits to it. And what I see coming out with bills like laws like Bill C-16, and Canada does not have a protection of freedom of speech like the U.S. does. I wish it did, but it doesn't. It doesn't mean that I don't want to protect freedom of speech like I would in the States, but I understand that there's a little bit more risk here involved in doing so.
Well, in the Charter, we do have the protection for every person of freedom of expression. But it's the way it's been interpreted in our courts,
right?
That there are reasonable limitations that can be applied. So originally, over the years, that was applied quite in keeping with the United States, but more over the last few years, under the dominance of this politically correct crap, it has been sliding more and more. And now this legislation is just basically knocking one piece of the Charter out of the way for another that they just added.
But it's the vehicle that allowed LGBT groups. It's the vehicle that allowed ethnic minorities and religious minorities to bring their issues to the forefront of public discourse. And now it almost seems like with government assistance and the radical elements of each of these groups, they're trying to lock it in. Now nobody can speak out against it. And
now we've had what we want out of this. No one else.
Right. And the issue that I take with this, and I want your impression on this, Subman, is that the what was it? It was an association of medical professionals and pediatrics. I can't remember the association's name, but anyways, they've come out basically saying that this gender ideology is harmful to children.
Right.
And they came up with a huge write-up that shows that children will generally hit puberty at this age. Sometimes they don't identify at a younger age or prepubescent with the gender that they were born with or the sex that they were born with. But most of them, if given time and a healthy environment, will move through this and eventually come to accept their biological gender. Not
with some level of variance, but the way Ed Clint described it was perfect. It's like poles on the spectrum. the traits generally are pulled towards these two spectrum.
Right.
These two
But
poles.
there's no third or fourth. There's no other axis on this,
Right.
and so
There's no not being on. You're not in outer space. You're still on the planet.
right. So my point to this is that under these current protections, if these scientists were to come to Canada and have a conference on this gender ideology, and this law is in place, this law would essentially say that what you're saying, even though scientifically accurate, it's a crime, and I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Hitchens when he was in Canada and gave a big speech on what you were just talking about. He came here to talk about specifically getting rid of hate speech laws, which we had just brought in for the first time.
Yeah, in 2006.
Well, it's a secular blasphemy. I mean, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, legitimately, it can be. I mean, yeah, I don't want people being able to go around saying, let's gas the Jews.
At least not in the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, I find that type of speech repulsive. Yet, I don't, I think that those kind of things it's like sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? The more those people, state those type of repulsive views, and the more people who find them repulsive through, argument or conversation or just realization, their own moral code, those people are going to be relegated, just organically to their own little enclaves, right? They're not going to become part of the mainstream. But if you tell them, oh, you can't talk about that ever. No, you can't do it. Well, now it's, we're being persecuted in the martyr complex, and I don't know. I don't want people to be. I don't believe we should gas the Jews, obviously, but but what those guys they're a joke now. The white nationalists, they're who
right. There is a concern I have, though, about the rise of the right in response to the intolerance of the left. And this is, this is what I was telling people. Okay, so now in Canada, we're going to have the power for the government to decide what you not just what you can't say, but they can tell you under penalty of a criminal law under human rights what you must say. This is a whole new level of 1984 for us. And what I've been trying to say to people is, right now, you might think, well, because they always go, well, what's it harm you to respect someone by using their preferred pronoun? It's their identity. It's like, I don't care what you're telling me I have to say. The government never has the right to do that. And so look down the road. Right now, you think, of course, this is glorious and totally good. But what about when the conservatives get it? Or worse yet, what if the rise of the far right takes possession of the government in an election?
Yeah.
And now they have this power all laid out for them. Well,
you think they're just going to hand it over?
Yeah, they're going to use it, just like you have been using it. It is wrong to do this.
And
right.
the big, I think we all may agree on this, is the big problem is the authoritarianism behind either side.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm in the political compass. I'm down about a little bit left and a little bit libertarian. So,
you're a moderate guy.
Yeah, I'm a moderate. But that I see the authoritarianism of both sides as the worst part of it. Now, I'm not full libertarian. I don't think their economics works, but that's a discussion for another day. But
yeah.
But as far as individual rights and liberties, oh yeah, I'm big time into personal liberty.
Yeah.
Again, that's another reason I'm a Second Amendment supporter. Personal rights and responsibilities, they go together.
Yes.
And so that's why, that's why I served my country,
Yeah.
I believe in those principles, and I had no problem defending them, or if called upon to give my life for them, I would have. Fortunately, I didn't have to.
Are you telling me that you did not put your life on the line, so to speak, to serve your country, and if called upon to possibly die, in order to help provide safe spaces and crayons and puppies for university students.
You know what? I don't mind if they have them. You want to have your little safe spaces and your crayons, and go ahead. But just, don't make it such that that the public space is a safe space. The public space is not a safe space.
Right, but that's what they're learning.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because honestly, 9 times out of 10, most of your future policymakers and leaders are coming out of universities. Yeah. And if they're coming out of the universities where they've been sheltered and protected, where they've gotten a participation trophy for getting up in the morning and pinching a dookie in the toilet, and that's the most of an accomplishment that they can fucking, look at me.
At my age, special. That is an accomplishment.
Right. I know I'm being facetious, but the point is that, we have an entire 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 generations of children that were never challenged to persevere, and they were protected and sheltered, and this, I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm not going to blame moms. I'm not going to blame parents. I'm not going to blame dads. The blame is spread around.
The moms are to blame.
Oh, right. But the blame can be spread around. But now, every time these children, these adult babies are faced with adversity, they throw tantrums. And when I see these riots, I'm not seeing structured protests with people that have points. What I'm seeing is the infantile mentality that has been fostered from their youth all the way up to their adulthood, just taking shape as an adult temper tantrum.
Well, I can agree with you on the part about academic reform. I think Godsod, Godsod, right? Did you have him on?
Yeah, I was disappointed. I asked him. He said he was too busy.
Oh.
He was polite about it, but still, it sucks.
Yeah,
we'll get him.
He's really good about this. He was talking about the overwhelming majority of left-leaning professors in academia, and it goes all the way down into the high schools and middle schools, etc. And yes, there needs to be some counter to that. But as far what I was talking about was, if you want to have a safe space, you can have a little building over there, that if you just totally stressed out or whatever, you can't deal with things anymore, you can go to and you can sit in there and color or whatever. I don't mind if you have that. But to make the entire university a safe space, to make the classroom a safe space, no. That was what I meant by you can have your little, I don't mind they have their little safe space, okay? Just to clarify.
Just to point it out, because this is one of the few times that I've just come out on camera, and like I said, I don't care anymore. My educational background actually is in human services, counseling specifically, well, not specifically, but counseling, doing intake work, stuff like that. And
I can tell from your Twitter account.
Oh, no, you couldn't. But there's something to be said. Mental health services and being empathetic to people is necessary. Yeah. I agree that if somebody is stressed out at school, if the exams are too hard, if they've been away from their family for a long time, if this is a new environment for them and they're experiencing some mental stressors that they've never really been exposed to before, that they're going to need extra help. I have no issue with that. And so I know I kind of break from the mold of my industry, especially here in Canada, when I talk the way I do and say the things I do. Trust me, it would not be popular in most of the circles that I would generally work in, but I'm not concerned about that anymore for a number of reasons. And I have no problem being empathetic to somebody, to hearing them out and getting their perspective.
Right.
But once that person says that, not only must you empathize with my position, but you must adopt it and accept it as objective reality.
Yeah.
In a professional sense, if I'm in the office, if I'm listening to somebody talking to me and saying that, I'm going to nod and use my micro expressions and, my minimal encouragers and be like, okay, well, how does that make you feel? But, outside.
Tell me about your mother.
Yeah. Outside in my outside of my private life, I understand that there's a separation between these two aspects of of me. I have a professional me and I have a private me, and the private me. And so that, that's why when Hillary says you need a public policy and a private policy, it didn't shock me that much, because I kind of understand what she meant by that, or at least I think I tried to understand what she meant by that.
In her case, she already damaged her honesty reputation so
Right.
badly.
And I also understand that, you got to handle some people with kid gloves because they're really, really sensitive. But at some point, it's off.
Yep.
At some point, these people have to wake up and realize life isn't fair.
Yeah.
The world isn't fair. I'll try and help you. I will try and guide you to a path that will lead you to a place where you're comfortable. But I'm not going to sacrifice every right that I have to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
This is what psychiatrists were concerned about with this whole idea of not triggering people. Is that, okay, if this really upsets people, then avoiding it your entire life and everyone stepping on eggshells around you is only going to make it probably worse.
It's okay. So I'm going to say this, and then Subman, you can tell me whether or not you agree. I think it's an emotional and mental disarming of a population. And what I mean by that is that when the radical right, or if the radical right were to choose to rise, they've shouted racist, bigot, homophobic, Islamophobe for so long, and at so many people, that the words have lost all weight and all meaning. Yeah. And they will be completely mentally and intellectually and emotionally unprepared for the sheer level of backlash that they will face. They think that this whole Trump thing is bad. They don't know what kind of a bullet they dodged, because if they had actually got Hillary in and her policies went forward for another 4 or 8 years, when the backlash happened after that, it would just be a wave of hate. It would be everything they said exists. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm trying hard to disagree with you here, and it's pretty difficult right now. Yeah, it sounds like we'll look at this. What we had Gamergate, we had Brexit, and the Trump election. All three,
and the Cubs.
Yeah, and the Cubs won. Yeah. Joe Madden used to be down here in my area. So anyway, but these things are kind of like linked. They're kind of failures of the call out culture, you're a racist, the same thing you were talking about, watering down of those words, watering down of those shouts of you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're Islamophobe. Islamophobia? Yeah, anyway.
We call that rationality in some
circles. They flew planes into buildings.
Yeah, and of course, not all of them, because if all of them had flown planes into the buildings, there wouldn't be a problem anymore.
But anyway, yeah, I'm having problems trying to disagree with you. I think it would have been, I think this was like, I see the link though between the Gamergate, people distrusting the media, and they distrusted the games media at first a little. They found this collusion and this and the stuff going on in games media, and they were like, huh. And the mainstream media didn't help them out at all. They didn't cover it objectively. They just went with the narrative, right? And Brexit, something similar, right? The mainstream media is, it doesn't have a chance. We're gonna,
it's gonna get crushed.
Yeah, it's gonna get crushed. And then it happened, and they were totally stunned by it again. The Trump election, Hillary and the mainstream media, I'm with the exception of maybe Fox News and I don't know, InfoWars, they're not mainstream though. But the mainstream media, with the exception of Fox News, I think was fully behind Hillary.
Absolutely.
And you could tell it looking at all those. Have you seen those? I'm sure you've seen the reaction to Trump winning videos that are up in the Rachel Maddow and.
So good, dude. That's like early Christmas for me. Oh my God, it felt so good.
Yeah, before the election happened, they're like, We just need to come together. Like Lacey Green was really bad with
Yeah,
it.
oh, that was perfect.
Together. We need to have
Democracy.
unity. Yeah. And then afterwards, this is all going to hell. We can't allow this to stand. We're all going to die.
The end of the world. Oh God.
And fuck you, white people. Fuck you. You're horrible.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
because that's
we
gonna
have to come together. Yeah.
Where'd all the love go, baby?
and to bring this back into the whole Sherlock conversation that happened with me, eventually he posted on his own feed. I don't understand how it works. That basically this was what Dragonbeard and I were saying was the idiocracy of the alt-right.
He goes, hashtag alt-right, hashtag idiocracy.
Right? Like, I'm fucking alt-right. I don't even know what alt-right is. I don't.
Hey, everything's going to be alt-right.
I think it's Milo Yiannopoulos and some white nationalists, and that's about it. You know, that's I don't know.
Even Milo is not. Even Milo keeps telling him, like, I'm not alt-right. Like, I just give them
But it's just like he tried to label me a racist. That didn't work. So then he's like, well, then you're alt-right. So I'm a white nationalist now because I posted a gif of a kid with watermelon coming out of his mouth. Fuck off. You know? Did you ever watch Blazing Saddles, Subman?
Oh yeah.
That was a racist movie. I love it. It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, that's where the dishonesty was. I was like, there's a difference between racial humor and
And
I should
racism.
tell you, Subman, at the end of that, it took for him to back off. It took one of his own followers, a black woman, to step in and go, "This is ridiculous. All these gifts are just racial humor."
Yeah.
And then she followed it up with, "But I guess that makes me just probably a coon or an Uncle Tom, right?"
And then she followed me. I was like, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Then everyone backed off because the black woman stepped in.
Oh yeah, yeah. The hierarchy
Hashtag-
of social justice, right?
Hashtag she is my shield.
But she's just saying common sense. She just stepped in. Like that's what she said. This is ridiculous. This is absurd.
Oh well.
And I can give these people Carlin saying that you can do rape jokes. I can give them Chappelle doing nothing but race oriented jokes. I can give them John Cleese talking about political correctness and how it leads to authoritarian regimes, right? When you crack down on humor. And these people love all of these people. But then as soon as you use them as an example against exactly what they're talking about,
Oh, I don't understand.
No, that's not the same thing.
Yeah. What you did was worse. And this is what I mean. Like, you know, when I was talking about like they dodged a bullet with Trump and that it would have been worse, and it's like this lack of inoculation to actually having to deal with ideas different than your own. I think it's a person's responsibility to try and to understand what's important. And I think freedom of speech is one of those things that should be on everyone's radar as important. Now, nobody has to share my values. I'm not expecting them to, but that I'm not going to stop speaking out about the things that I care about. And my major focus has always been freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And I don't necessarily put any limits on that. But when I say that words like racist, xenophobe, homophobe, misogynist, all of these words have now been so watered down that they've lost all impact. And they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have. You know, being called a racist should give somebody pause. They should go, holy crap. Somebody just, okay, maybe I need to examine my own beliefs and maybe I need to challenge them. But now, because they've overused the word so much and in so many different situations where it wouldn't apply, it has no impact. So now people who are racist, who are bigots, who are homophobic, xenophobic, whatever, deplorables, are just going to be like, yeah, I've heard this all before. Go fuck yourself. And then they're just going to continue being what they are. They won't challenge their own beliefs. So then somebody like us and yourself and people who kind of fall in the middle will have to challenge them in a different way.
It's also a very real danger with the hysteria, the rape hysteria. You know, people that walk around basically, you didn't hold the door for me. This guy raped me.
You stared at me.
Good grades. This teacher raped me, right? And then, so what happens when someone's like, I didn't tell everyone right away, but I was raped. Everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. Get in line. Everyone's raped.
What is it? The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
Exactly. It's the sky is falling. It's the Chicken Little. It's Chicken Little effect.
Or cry wolf. That works too.
Yep.
You know, wolf, wolf, wolf. Okay, whatever. And that's the sad part about this, is that these words had impact. These words had meaning, and now they have been bereft of that meaning.
Yeah,
And
it becomes so inured to them that that they don't even have the. Yeah, I agree. The thing that really irks me though about that particular one, the sexism and racism thing, is that they are so often uttered by people in the context of an actual racist or sexist sentence.
Right.
All white people are racist.
Right.
It is a racist statement.
Brutally racist.
And to add to that, there's been this I wouldn't say it's a meme, but I've heard a couple of people tweet it and say it on Facebook, is that not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists supported Trump. Bullshit. Utter bullshit. I have had friends who are black, who are gay, who are, every stripe that you can imagine, every color and creed, and from the left, and every time from the left, right? When a gay man or a black man or a black woman or a trans person disagrees with their preferred delusion, they immediately turn to the nastiest rhetoric. Like, oh, I guess you're just going to love being called a... See, I wouldn't even say the word. So
I have to be fair. Like on my social media, there are a lot of liberals who've been very reasonable.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's not enough to be reasonable yourself. It's not enough that, like, of everyone on my Facebook, you definitely engage in some of this, but I try to provoke people because there are things that are wrong here, right? And they're having a serious impact. The left brought us gay rights. I think that's important.
Yes.
Right. We might be able to argue about the particulars of abortion, but I don't think abortion should be illegal, and I think that's important. I think that evolution needs to be taught in schools and proper science. All this stuff's important. Yet the people on the left who brought it to us are descending into madness, and the population now is feeling forced to reject them, and along with them is going to come a lot of consequences.
Right, and the consequences are you create the hate that you claim exists. They're going to create racists.
So I'm trying to tell them, like, I don't hate the left.
No.
I just hate what you become, right?
What's that, Christopher Nolan? Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Yeah. Do you see this?
Yeah.
I made this half a month before the election. Democrats know all about not accepting election results. They started it. And there's Al Gore rejecting the results from, and then Gravity Lessons, Wile E. Coyote. And this is what I mean about principles. Like the First Amendment, the reason this came to mind is the First Amendment is like a law of nature. I mean, it's the way we behave. But once you destroy free speech in a society, things will happen that are inevitable. You can't stop them at that point. That's why we have freedom of speech coded in law. There's a reason for it. And I think people have become very detached and ignorant about, not just how important it is, but even just where it comes from, how hard and long we fought to understand this and establish it in our societies.
Right. Did you see there? I saw somewhere, I don't know exactly where it was, but I saw somewhere that something like 51% of college students in the United States, or maybe it was in North America, that think that freedom of speech should be, isn't, what was it? Freedom of speech should have those, like you were saying, they should have those restrictions on it. They should be,
Right.
It should not, it should include language that, as long as it's not hurting other people's feelings.
Right.
Right.
That
and this is the problem that
what?
It's so bad because these people will be our future leaders, whether we want them to be or not.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that right now we have the old guard protecting our rights or trying to hold on by the nail to protect those rights. Once these people 10 or 20 or 30 years from now are in power, it's going to be an afterthought. They're going to just look at it and go, well, these protections are kind of antiquated, so why don't we just vote them out because they don't really meet with our values? And then it's done. It's done.
Yeah, I don't know what the procedure is in Canada. I'm sorry, I didn't get Canadian civics in school, but for changing your charter. But I think that's one of the good things about our Constitution is that it is so difficult to amend it. It's possible, but you have to have a huge, like, super majority, and you have to have I think it's like 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the state legislatures.
Which brings a lot of the power back to state level.
Right.
We don't have that. We don't have that kind of protection for provinces here.
No, we don't.
Yeah. It may come from our history, though. You guys came from, you guys were, well, we were a crown thing too, but when we first started, we had these we had states that were, most people's allegiance was to their state, not to, the colonies or to the United States. And so states' rights were very big in constructing the Constitution, but balancing it with having a federal authority, was, and I think they did a good job. I really do. I mean, surprisingly, for the time period, they saw a lot of potential problems with, with the type of government they were setting up.
Right.
And I think it's done remarkably well. Maybe I'm biased.
At least in the United States, you get to pick your leaders. In Canada, the party, you vote for your party member, and then the party chooses the leader. So nobody voted for Trudeau.
Wow.
Although a lot of people voted for Trudeau, like they voted for the Liberal Party because they wanted Trudeau.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't vote for Trudeau.
There's an easy way to explain this. You guys, your position, okay, so in Congress, the biggest party, what do they call the leader of that party again? There's a
Speaker of the House.
Yeah, the
leader of the House? Or
not the whip, it's the majority leader.
Right.
Yeah.
The majority leader is our president and our majority leader at the same time. All those powers are combined into one person. So
that would suck here.
Yes. Even here, the only reason it hasn't gotten out of control here in the past, even though there's been some terrible stuff that's gone on with this, is because Canada just isn't important enough. Like, we don't have the kind of political prestige the United States does. We have a 10th of your population. So the temptation to become like a dictator of Canada is really low. There's no... I mean, what do you do then, right?
Invade Alaska.
Alaska's ours. But what? They just took Toronto?
Yeah.
With drones? Okay. Call off the attack.
There was a comic who did a good bit about Canada. I can't remember his name, but he goes, "Yeah, Canada pulls off the greatest military coup in history. Lay low for 275 years and then attack some place like Turkey." Say we're calling it chicken, assholes. Like we're not doing any danger. We're not a danger to anyone in Canada. We kind of get to act the way we do because we live under the safety umbrella, the safe space provided by the United States.
Well, we're capable of causing trouble for people that turn to be serious politically. Like right now, okay, let me just tell you, I don't know if you know much about Trudeau, our fine prime minister. He was raised by a woman that his father was also a prime minister. So he was raised, first of all, I think it was Nixon that was at their house once when he was a baby and proclaimed that one day this boy would be heir to the prime ministership. So he was raised with this attitude, like he could do nothing wrong. He was definitely going to be important one day, not the prime minister. His mother was screwing around on the prime minister, behind the prime minister's back with the Rolling Stones. She didn't show up the last time he got elected. She didn't even bother to show up when he was getting put into office. She was a complete mess, a total disgrace, right? And he's like, she's the one that taught me how to be a feminist. And I'm like, of course.
that explains a lot, actually. Then,
then he was raised in special schools. I'm sure he got grades because of who he was, right? He didn't have to work very hard. He's always kind of a good-looking guy or whatever. The only job he's ever had, the only job he's ever had, to my knowledge, was that for a short while he was a substitute teacher for drama. Then he won office in a seat in Quebec. I believe it was in Quebec.
I think so.
And he won election a couple times very easily, and then they made him prime minister.
Wow. Well, because it's 2016.
That's right.
It's 2016, people. It's the current year.
That's the only thing he's done for our fame as a country. Everyone around the world goes, in their own language of choice, it's 2016.
It's the current year. Huh? Yeah, fuck. I don't know, man. It's just he's ridiculous. And I mean, again, the tactics that were attempted to be used against him to bring him down during the election are the same failed shaming tactics that the left tried to use against Trump. I will give him that. He did run a positive campaign, and the conservative government went really low on him, going, "Oh, how about that nice hair?" There was no substantive argument against him, and people rejected it. So we were the creation of this. Like, we created our own headache here or the conservative government created their own headache by trying to take him out with these lowball tactics. And then the country rejected it, and we brought this guy in. And now I can't tell you, like, I don't speak for every Canadian, clearly, but I can't tell you how many people who were elated, who were on cloud nine when this handsome, energetic young man was elected to office, who is going to be inclusive to all these genders. I mean, he's going to be wonderful.
Without his shirt on. Yeah, it's like these yoga push-ups in Parliament.
Yeah, and now there are people who are totally elated with his election, going, "Man, shut up!
Yeah,
shut up! Do something."
I started criticizing him a month after he got in. He's been just over a year now. About a month after he got in, I started going after him, and I mean like hard, because the stuff he was doing was insanely stupid. And a lot of my liberal friends were like, "Hey, man, he just got in. Oh, what? You're not giving him a chance." And I'm like, "Dude, there's no chance for this kind of stuff." So you probably heard he put half of the women in the highest cabinet in all of Canada. Half of them were women.
Right.
And he's like, "It's the first time we haven't been prejudiced." It's like, no, this is the first time we have been prejudiced. See, every other prime minister before you just chose the most talented people, right? Now you chose based on sex, which is a discrimination tactic in our Constitution, the Charter of Rights. You've broken the law.
Somebody actually did the math, and I wish I could. A YouTuber did the math, and they said that based on the number of female parliamentarians and public figures and males, because the balance is not equal, more men go into politics.
Right.
That he had to choose women for his cabinet at like a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So just purely on math, it was discriminatory. That doesn't mean that the women aren't qualified to do those jobs. It was just that they had to be, by his math, 3 times more qualified than every other male candidate. So he distinctly chose them because they had a vagina.
Don't you wish you were Canadian now?
No, thanks. I'm
Come
glad.
on. We got plenty of room.
Got my Navy shirt on here.
There you go.
So I'm hoping that when the government comes for me for not accepting that there are 57 other genders, and speaking out against Islam and Christianity and all other religions, because I'm an atheist and I feel morally obligated to, that I can apply for refugee status under, come on, Trump, let me in, dude. I was on your side.
That's the link there between Islam and that type of the social justice ideology is just bizarre to me, because of some of the absolute the treatment of homosexuals in Islamic countries, the treatment of women in Islamic countries, and I just don't get it why they are championing Islam in those. I'm like,
because there's been a concerted effort in academia, specifically in like gender studies and sociology classes, to try and differentiate between different cultures and to say no culture is any better than any other. We're all just different, right? To say otherwise is ethnocentric. Well, okay, fine. Fuck. No. Yeah. No. I don't have to accept that. No. I don't have to accept that tossing a gay man off of a building because he's gay is just different.
Yeah,
It's wrong.
yes, agreed.
I'm currently going through an audiobook the last few weeks while I've been driving my truck way too much. It's reviewing kind of a history of many, not all, but many of the key philosophers and their most important kind of contributions or positions, and a bit about their life. And to me, I understand more clearly now since I've done the review. It's much more clear to me why people like Hitchens refer to this as a war of civilizations. It's because it's not that we're all going to become Arabs. It's because it's about human nature. This war has been going on since the beginning of history. That some people prefer a top-down approach to life, and others believe in cooperation on some level. And there's always going to be disagreement about how to arrange it. There's always going to be people who think that democracy, for instance, or meritocracy, which I think is far better than aristocracy, they're just not good. They don't want them. They want people to tell them what to do. They want might equals right. So that's why the Muslim world being left to its own devices and kind of coming in through the gates because of these social justice warriors and far lefties. That's why it's so dangerous. It's because we don't have a right to just expect our lives to be the way they are. People fought a long time to make it this way, and it can change very quickly.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about this in private in my own thoughts, but there's some countries around the world where they require government service or federal service. Like you have to go into either the military, like Israel. You have to go into the military or some form of federal service.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is it, like 2 years, I think they have to do.
I think so.
That, I think, would not be a terrible thing. I know it probably doesn't have much of a chance of passing, but and it doesn't have to be military service. It can be, Peace Corps.
Truck drivers.
No, you can be, Peace Corps or feeding, feeding the hungry in food banks or something like that. Some form of giving out of your,
Right.
giving back to the country and to the communities rather than just taking.
Yeah.
There's something, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's life changing. It may not be for everybody, but there's something fundamental about giving up some part of what you like to do. Giving up part of your freedom or part of your even identity to do something for other people.
Yeah.
And like I said, and not everybody gets that out of the military. Not everybody would get that out of the military. Some people do, but some form of service back to the community, I think would do a lot of people good. Plus, you'd get out there, you'd get these kids out from behind that everybody gets a trophy thing, and they'd see real people, who are in suffering and real, bad shit happening out in the world, that kind of thing, and see what the world is really like. And it wouldn't be such a shock to them. They'd hear opinions from, you bring up people to, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're onto something there. Like, that's why, I brought up that my education centers around human services. I've done volunteering.
Yeah.
And again, I fully accept that there may be a penalty for my freedom of speech. And that penalty is if people become aware of who I am, which I'm not really trying to hide anymore. But if they chose to have a grievance with me, they could undermine certain aspects of my life. But I'm not concerned about that so much anymore because the fight for freedom of speech is much more important than my own personal safety, I guess, or personal career goals. But I've handed out sandwiches to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
I've collected and gone around and helped with fundraisers. I've advocated for people who are down on their luck. And I'm talking like people who are seriously screwed over or looked over or disenfranchised. And I'm not saying I'm a good person for that. I'm not trying to claim this so that it's some sort of protective wall against me. I don't consider myself a social justice warrior. I consider myself to be a person with one aspect of my personality. I really want to help people who have been left behind and ignored. But on the other hand, I understand what's important for them and for the rest of society, and that is to protect the values or the things that made us get to this point where we could care for others than ourselves, and that's freedom of speech. And when you undermine that, even if your intention at first is to be good and to help further the protections of a particular group, you're not helping them. As much as you feel you're helping them, you are not helping them. You're just going to make it worse for them in the long run. And I wish just people could understand this.
Yeah.
Able to relate to people.
Okay, guys. That's a good point, though. But I have got to run. I'm out of time.
That's
All
fine.
Hey, man, I'm glad that you decided to come on.
Yeah.
And I hope that you're able to do more stuff online.
I have to get. I know I do. I haven't been doing it lately because I've been at work. I finally got back to work. I was out of work for a good 5 or 6 months, so I know about the economy in a in a personal way. But I'm back to work, and I'm supposed to be doing the gender bias podcast, the anti-social justice podcast, and Paula and I had been doing that for a while, but I've kind of letting it fall as I get more busy. You kind of go on the weekend and you go, I don't really want to do this podcast.
Are you trying to tell me something I don't know?
No, I know you know it. That's why I'm saying. But
you got my sympathy, man. I
I'm
know
supposed
exactly.
to. I got to get back in with. I got to have Paula get back with Paula, and we got to start doing it on at least. I'd say probably twice a month. We were trying to do it weekly, but weekly is brutal.
Yeah. If you want some advice on not like really elaborate stuff, because I know most people are not interested in that, but I also know about some really simple, easy tricks for when you're doing your audio editing, like putting stuff together to put up. If you want anything, just let me know. I'll tell you what I got in my noggin.
Yeah, sure. Send it. I've been using AudioFile or something like that. Yeah. So
Audacity.
Audacity. That's it. AudioFile.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for listening to us rant.
Hey, thanks for having me on and letting me rant a little too.
Not a problem.
It's been fun, guys. And,
you have a good one.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
And we're out.